So now you know. Okay, so last week we did the first two of the eight psukim to do with kuf. So just to remind ourselves a little bit about what was in those first two psukim. Both of them were this idea of calling out to Hashem. Karasi, I called out, or karasicha, I called out to you, Hashem. Both of them speaking about this like almost anguished calling, called out b'cholev with my whole heart, and I asked Hashem, Aneni, answer me with a promise that chukecha etzaira, I'll keep all your laws. And in the second pasuk, he also said, Karasicha, I called out to you, I cried out to you, and I said, Hoshieni, save me, and gave the reason, Va'eshmara edesecha, so that I can follow your Torah. And we discussed those two psukim at with quite detail, the concept of calling, the idea of b'cholev with one's whole heart, the concept of believing in Hashem, asking Hashem to answer us, and David's saying that the whole reason that he wants Hashem to answer him is so that he can keep Torah and mitzvahs. And that's pretty much, we covered that in more detail in the first two psukim. I just wanted to point out in the second pasuk, the end of it, it says, "Ve'eshmara edosecha," so that I could guard your mitzvahs. And you may have noticed, as we've gone through this capital of Tehilim, this word edosecha, your mitzvahs, your testimonies, comes up a lot of times, but sometimes it has a vav in between the daled and the taf, so that we actually have to read it as edvaisecha. And I saw that a Chassam Sofer explains very, very beautifully. I'm not going to go into the full details of it, but he explains that this coincides with a story of Megillas Rus, and he explains that Megillas Rus is a short Megillah. It has only 85 psukim, and 77 of the 85 psukim begin with the letter Vav. That means that 8 psukim don't. In the whole of Megillas Rus, there are 8 psukim that do not begin with the letter Vav. And he says that in this perek, Kuf Yutes of Tehilim, there are 8 times that the word Eidosecha is written with a Vav, a spare Vav, that, as I said, we read it Eidvosecha, and that's to make up for the 8 Vavs that are missing in Megillas Rus. If we were learning Megillas Rus, I would discuss with you all which of the psukim don't have a vav and why. It coincides with this perek of Tehilim, but this perek of Tehilim is long enough. We're not going to go into that now. It's just a bit of background information to add in. He goes to the next pasuk, the third pasuk of the kufs, which is Kidamti baneshef va'ashaveya. I get up early, and we'll have to explain what neshef is, and I call out, Lidvarcha yichalti, and I hope for your words. So straight away, all the Mepharshim want to know what this neshef is. It's interesting, I'm using a different Tehilim today, and it's got just one translation straight away, so I don't know what you have in yours, but here it says, before dawn, I get up. Lots of discussion in the Gemara. What is neshef? When is the time that David HaMelech got up? But whatever it is over here, David HaMelech is saying that I got up very early in the morning, by neshef. By most opinions, and we'll see this pasuk together with the next one, that David HaMelech got up before it got light outside. There's the opinion that he got up very early to daven. Well, we know that he got up at midnight and said tikkun chatzos, midnight prayers. But here it seems like possibly he went to sleep after that. After he got up at midnight, said the midnight prayers, and then maybe he napped, or maybe he didn't. Okay, lots of discussion in the Gemara. What is this idea of getting up baneshef in the early in the morning, vashaveh, and calling out to Hashem? So the commentaries explain to us, and we'll see this together with the next pasuk. So I'm going to read it as well. Kidmu einai ashmurais, my eyes opened in the before the watchman left, "Lasiach be'imrasecha," to talk of your words. So again, the commentaries discuss this word ashmurais, which seems to be the watchman, the security guards. You see, they even had those in the time of David HaMelech, and they had, according to the Gemara, they had certain like shifts. And he says, I got up, I opened my eyes and got up with the first watchman of the morning. And what did I do it for? Lasiach b'imrasecha, to speak of your words, to chat with you, Hashem. So a lot of the commentaries discuss here this concept of getting up very early. Interesting, the commentaries say that it's not a natural thing to get up early. Getting up early is difficult, and it's not what people want to do. So I was thinking, as you get older, you get up early, right? Isn't that what you just? It does become more natural, and Chazal tell us that while we wake up earlier, nobody really feels like getting up earlier. You feel like you possibly up, then maybe you want to read or just lie in bed and stare at the ceiling or whatever it is that you want to do. But we have to, those people who get up early and do things, this is a training. It's not natural instinct to get up and be ready to work the day. And David HaMelech says, I did that. And you know why I did that? Because if you start your day like that, say Chazal, then you will have a much more productive, day. And so that's why he did it. I remember some years ago there was a man who used to come to shul every single day, and he stopped. And when my husband asked him why he stopped coming to shul every day, he said he doesn't want to get up too early because then the day is too long. And that's like really sad. But besides that, it's sad. That's exactly what Chazal are telling us over here that David HaMelech was saying. Make your days longer, okay? Fill them. Get up early and start doing something. And David HaMelech says, you know what it is that you should do? Lidvarcha yichalti, you've got to hope for Hashem to be answering your prayers. That's what you spoke about in the first two psukim. But more than that, lasiach beimrasecha, speak to Hashem, speak Torah thoughts. And so comes the custom of getting up and learning before davening, right? A lot of custom about that, particularly in the Hasidic world, where people prepare for davening by learning. So sometimes they think it's okay to daven very late, and you often hear people saying, "Oh, Hasidim," and not just Chabad Hasidim, "Oh, Hasidim daven late," and that's not okay. That's just a side effect of the first part of what is supposed to happen. Is that you're supposed to get up, learn, and then only daven. So you might daven later, but more prepared. Some people only do the davening later part and not the learning first part. So David HaMelech is telling us, I got up early, kidamti or kidmu einai. I got up very early, and what did I do that for? Why did I do it? Lasiach beimrasecha, so that I could talk about your words, Hashem. The commentaries tell us one step later, and as we've said, mostly the commentaries home in over here and speak about that they actually say the righteous get up early, but then the commentaries go one step further and they explain to us that, and we've said this a lot of times already, that night always represents crises or difficulties or challenging times, and day always represents when things are going good and easy. And says David HaMelech over here, a person must get up early and daven even when things are hard and challenging. In those times where a person just wants to put their head under the blankets and pretend the world doesn't exist, kidmu einai, get up while it's still dark outside, while things are still hard, while there's still challenges, and get up and daven, turn to Hashem. And the commentaries explain to us that in general, a person should make themselves a learning and davening schedule. and explained to us that when it's nighttime outside, then a person should study the oral Torah, and when it's light, it's daytime outside, that's the time for studying the written Torah. And why we have this tradition of studying Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, in the night and the written Torah in the day. So it says that when Moshe Rabbeinu was up in heaven receiving the Torah from Hashem, he didn't have clocks, and how he knew when it was day and when it was night was according to what Hashem was, quote unquote, learning with him. So in the daytime, Hashem dictated the Torah Shebichtav, the written Torah, and in the nighttime, Hashem told him the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, and that's how Moshe Rabbeinu knew if it was daytime or nighttime while he was up in heaven. And so we have this tradition. Another point that the commentaries make over here is that it's written about David HaMelech that he would get up in the night to sweeten the Gvura, to sweeten the night. It's written in other places. What does that mean? He got up to sweeten the night. And so the Maggid of Mezrich explains to us that nighttime is a time of Gvura, a time of harshness, a time of judgment. It's a more difficult time spiritually. And daytime is a time of chesed, of kindness. Again, at a spiritual level. And what did David HaMelech do? Why did he get up and say different prayers in the middle of the night? It says he got up to sweeten the Gvura, to sweeten the night, to bring chesed, to bring kindness, to bring softness into the difficulties of the night. And he did this. He did this for himself, and he did this even more so for the world at large, that there would be chesed, there would be kindness during the night as well. The Meiri points out over here that if a person gets up and starts their day correctly, then their day will go much better. And he says that the easiest way to connect to Hashem is in the early hours of the morning, before the obligation, even before the obligation of davening, the regular daily davening, and that this, even though it's still nighttime, but it's the beginning of the daytime, sweetens the Gvura. So I must say I found that quite interesting, because like this week is going to be Shabbos Mevorchim, and we're going to say Tehilim. And what is our custom? To get up a little bit earlier and say Tehilim. And I was just wondering about that. It doesn't say written anywhere, but I think one of the things that we do when we're saying Tehilim is to bring chesed into the Gvura, to bring kindness into a harsh world. So when is the best time to do this? Early in the morning. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it at other times. Also, we should be saying Tehilim all the time, all day. I was asking my husband, but he didn't appreciate my my sentiments. So Hashem wants us to say Tehillim all day, as it seems he does, because he's making so many things for us to say Tehillim for. We should just hire people to say Tehillim 24 hours a day, and then Tehillim will be said all day, and Hashem can keep everybody well and good, and Tehillim can be happening in the world. We should let everybody be well. We should be saying, and when we say Tehillim, it should be in thanksgiving, rather than begging for chesed. Okay, so this is David HaMelech. Then he continues and he says, "Kaili shema kechastecha," your voice listens to as is your kindness. Hashem kemishpatecha chayeni. Hashem, like your judgment, let me live. So some of you will recognize this pasuk, not everyone. So you know that when just before we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, there's a whole shofar service, and one of the last things after we've said the capital of Tehilim 7 times, then the Baltukea leads us in saying a few psukim. And if you look at those psukim and you look at the first letter of each of those psukim, you will see that it's actually spells out the word cross Satan, which means like tear up, rip up, get rid of the Satan. The Satan is the one who makes us sin and then goes and tells on us and causes punishment. And so we before we blow the shofar, we read all those psukim that is the acronym, is the beginning of the word cross Satan. The kra, the very first letter, kuf, depending on your nusach, so is the pasuk that's used for the kuf in Chabad is Kaili Shima Kachasdecha, Hashem Kamishpatecha Chayeni, which is this pasuk. And why would this pasuk be a good pasuk to say before we blow shofar? So let's see what it's saying. What is the pasuk saying? Kaili Shima, my voice, I want you to listen to. So this is exactly what we ask him. We're going to blow the shofar. We are not saying words when we blow the shofar, but we want Hashem to listen to us, to listen, to hear, to act on what the emotions are when we blow the shofar. And how do we explain? How do we want Hashem to listen? Kachasdecha, as is your kindness. You, Hashem, are kind. Sometimes it's obvious to us that you are so kind, and sometimes it's not as obvious to us. And chesed is when it's obviously obvious that Hashem is kind. And so before we blow the shofar, or actually any time that we're saying these words, this capital of Tehilim, what we're saying to Hashem is, Kaili Shema, listen to my voice. How do I want you to listen to my voice? Kechasdecha, as when you showing us that you are kind, that you are always kind. And the second part of the pasuk, which seems to be saying the opposite, Hashem kamishpatecha chayeni, Hashem, according to your justice, let me live. Your justice, your judgment, which seems to be the opposite, because chesed is when Hashem is nice to us just because he wants to be kind. And mishpat is when Hashem is nice to us if we deserve it and not nice to us if we don't deserve it. So this pasuk seems to have opposites in it. Listen to me in your kindness, and kamishpatecha chayeni, and let me live according to your judgment. And really, what David HaMelech is saying, says the Radak, Hashem, you really are always kind, and your judgments are always kind. We don't always see the kindness in it. And what we're asking you over here, Hashem, is we know that you doing judgment and that it's really kind, even if I don't see that and don't like that. So what am I asking you here, Hashem? I'm saying, listen to me, because you really are kind. And the kind of the word doesn't go so well. The kind of kind that we want from Hashem is that even when he does mishpat, we should be able to see and to feel the kindness, the chesed. So Hashem, do your thing. Listen to my voice, but be kind. Let your judgment be kind. So really, the pasuk should end Hashem kamishpatecha, like is your judgment. Full stop. So what is this extra word chayeni? Let me live. And the Mefarshim explain. At a simple level, we're just asking Hashem for life. At a deeper level, we're asking Hashem to give us a good life. Chayeni, let me live, not just life, but quality of life. Let me feel the goodness. Let me enjoy the goodness. Let me have a life that I consider to be a life. This concept of Kaili Shim'ah, that Hashem, you should hear my voice at this time. So Dr. Magid explains this with a mashal, and he says, and you've probably heard this mashal a lot of times at this time of year, and he says that a king was walking around his garden, and he heard crying from outside the palace walls, and he said to the guard, "Who's outside?" And the outside the palace walls. And the guard says, I don't know, I'm not sure who it is. And the king listens. Shim'ah, he listens for a few seconds more. And he says, I know that voice. That's my son. Let him in. Okay. And the guards who had not wanted to let in the prince because he didn't look like a prince and he didn't look like he had been behaving as a prince. He looked like a homeless guy on the streets. And Hashem said, no, let him in because I hear him. He's my son. And that's why we ask Hashem when it comes to this time of year, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and specifically as we blow shofar, he says, Kaili Shim'ah. Please, Hashem, listen to my voice, even when I don't look like someone who you want me to look like. Even if I haven't been behaving this whole year like someone who you want to be nice to, you want to be nice and kind to. Kaili Shim'ah, hear my voice. When a father hears the voice of his child crying, then chayeni, then for sure, let him in. Give him what he needs. Be nice. And that's why this is the pasuk that was chosen to be said before the shofar is blown. Karvu Rodfai Zima, those who chase me are full of despicable things, Zima, Miteirascha Rachaku, they are far away from your Torah. They've distanced themselves for from your Torah. So David HaMelech is telling Hashem, there's all these people who chase me, and they're full of doing bad things. Right? Zima, they're chasing after despicable things. And what do? Miteirascha rachaku. They go away from your Torah. And the commentaries explain to us that, or discuss with us really, that this pasuk seems to be saying really unnecessary things. The people who are bad and don't keep Torah and are doing despicable things, miteiras harachaku, they are distancing themselves from Torah. Well, obviously, if you're doing despicable things, you're distancing yourself from Torah. And then says the Ma'amleis, actually no. There are people who do despicable things, but they think that they are still close to Torah. They're still busy doing all Torah things. Possibly they appear to the whole world around as holy, as doing all good things. And David HaMelech says no. He says if you are chasing Rodfei Zima, if you are chasing despicable things, then the natural opposite of that, what happens is that miteiras harachaku, you are distancing yourself from Torah. It's not, you can't be doing both things at the same time. However, even if that's the case, you're distancing yourself from the Torah. You're distancing yourself from Hashem. Immediately, David HaMelech says in the next pasuk, Karev ata Hashem. Hashem, you are near. V'chol mitzvaysecha emes, and all your Torah is true, is emes, is truth. It's a message that David HaMelech is giving us, and what we have to remember all the time is that even if we do get stuck doing something we shouldn't be doing, in other words, Radfei Zima, we're chasing after Zima, bad things, not necessarily good things, and that pushes us away from Torah and pushes us away from Hashem. Still, Hashem is Karev, He's close to us, He's kind. It's using the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei name, and all the mitzvahs that Hashem has given us are there. They there, and they are true, and we can easily come back. The expression of going from one side, from east to west, is actually not very far. It's just turning around, and then you're going the opposite way. And that's what David HaMelech is saying to us over here. Even if you were doing, like it says in Pasuk Kuf Nun 150, that you are unfortunately estranging yourself from Hashem, it's one little turn that brings you right back. And why is that? Because Hashem is waiting for us. Hashem is waiting, and He's giving us opportunities, He's giving us time, He's there in kindness, and He's waiting for us. And how does He wait? How does He get us? How does He get us back? we just have to do one little mitzvah, and then we've turned around. And that's what David HaMelech is saying to us. Karevat Hashem, you are close to us. V'chol mitzvah emes, and all your mitzvahs are true. So when a person is feeling that they've fallen, they're not as close, they're not as connected as they were, all they have to do to get back to Hashem is one mitzvah. And they can choose anyone they like. V'chol mitzvaysecha emes. Every single one of your mitzvahs is emes, is true. Every single one of your mitzvahs, Hashem, we can catch onto that mitzvah and we can come back close to Hashem. As he explains over here, Kedem Yadaiti Me'edesecha. I know from you, okay, I know from the way you, Hashem, behave, that you have established your mitzvahs, this ability for us to reconnect to you right from the beginning of time. And David HaMelech repeats this concept to us over and over. So from Ashrei, if you say it, that the Kuf pasuk over there is Karev Hashem l'chol karev, that Hashem is close to anyone who calls to Him, and this is a very similar pasuk. Karev ata Hashem. Even when I seem like I'm far from you, Hashem, I know that you are close, that you're waiting, that you will accept me. And this is one of the big things that we have to keep in mind as we come to this time of year, to this space of time. A little bit deeper than that, the Radak says, what does it mean you, Hashem, are close, and that your mitzvahs teach us how to behave? Because you created them, you established them la'olam, for all times. Says the Radak, that a person needs to know that mitzvahs apply to all times. We often excuse ourselves from various things. That's so trendy, or that's so not trendy. That's old-fashioned. That's from the days when. We like to use that as an excuse of why we don't need to keep something. Says David HaMelech, no. All mitzvahs are there. They are all emes. They're all true, and they're all there la'olam yasadatem. They've been established for all times. A little bit deeper than that. So says the Medrash that this is one of the hints, the fact that babies learn Torah in utero. We know that the Malach sits with the baby in the mother's stomach and teaches the baby the entire Torah. And this is Kedem, early, before. That's how you established your world. Kedem Yadaiti Meidesecha. It's I know that your edus, that your mitzvahs, that your Torah was there. How do I know it? That it's always been there? Because Kedem, earlier, even before I came into this world, I already started learning Torah and mitzvahs. And a third way of understanding this concept of Kila Eilam Yasadatem, so say the commentaries, that David HaMelech is telling us that no matter what Yidden go through, no matter what challenges and crises and whatever Yidden go through, La'olam Yasadatem, there will always be a establishment of Yidden in all times, people who will believe, people who will do, people who will keep, people who will stand up for us. This is Kedem Yadaiti. This is the way Hashem established the world, that there will la'olam forever be Yasadatem, people who will keep and establish or make sure that Yidden exist. And we so far proving that no matter what, there are Yidden who exist. And while all other nations have grown big and strong and harmed us, we know that there always have been and always will be Yidden who will uphold Yiddishkeit and make sure that Yidden exist forever and ever. I had such good plans to do the letter Reish as well, which we're obviously not going to do. I just think it's worth pointing out that Reish begins, the first psukim of Reish begin with the word Ra'eh, to see, which fits exactly with the time that we're in. This parsha of this week is Ra'eh, see. And there it is, in the parsha, it is it is Hashem saying, Ra'eh, you didn't look. And here's David HaMelech saying, Ra'eh, you Hashem look and see. And we'll have to explain next week, please God, what it is, what is the difference between Hashem saying and us saying, and what is Hashem telling us to look at, and what are we asking Hashem to look at and do for us. So I guess that is where we are going up to today. So,
thank you, Rifki. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.